Are we ready for some new perspectives right now? I've been looking up my nose again. I like that it implies you've been looking up my nose before. You know, all the theories about alchemy and about living practical magic don't mean much when we don't allow ourselves to experience the benefit of it. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you some practical perspectives, especially if you've been feeling pressure, especially if you've been feeling stuck. And I imagine that this conversation will be of deep assistance to you as you navigate your current step in life. I imagine it's going to help you feel more grounded in you, in your power, right here, right now, and to shift from theory into resonant action. Because, my friend, this is your life, and I imagine it's a life very much worth living. I'm Danielle Lynn, by the way. I talk to cool people like you who are remembering how you can live with ease. You know, all these talks of perspectives, they're only about as helpful as you apply them to your day-to-day, moment-to-moment life. I say that with direct experience. It can be easy to get caught up in theory, but the actual shift occurs when we embody. What does it mean to embody? It's the place where action, resonance, intent, feeling, perceiving, and beliefs all intersect into one delicious life jelly donut. And while it may sound like a lot of complicated steps, it's actually fairly straightforward to live. And it's less about trying to make that flow work and more about giving yourself permission to experience what flow can be like when you shift from systems of fear and control to systems of curiosity and allowing. You know, I think one of the funniest things we tell ourselves when we're really brilliant people is we tell ourselves, I don't know what to do. You might start to feel, oh my gosh, what do I do with that gift? What if I don't live up to my expectation? My friend, you could walk a seemingly mundane life on the surface, but you yourself are the magic and the spark that brings the depth to the life you are living. The most incredible tomorrows are forged in the present moment, and they are forged from giving yourself the permission to take the iterative steps now, to live in the iterative present moment. By simply bringing yourself out of imagination and theory land, by not buying into limiting perceptions and beliefs, by starting to imagine the script of your life, not just in theory, but then bringing that back to the present moment and saying, what's the step I can take right now? You start to breathe it into reality. I am offering you the perspective that this is be it and you have it. So the question I have at the moment is, would you be interested in moving beyond theory with me at the moment? In experiencing directly what it is to co-create your reality. I find it involves a few key things. One, it's a willingness to be completely present in the moment. What I mean by that is when you are here, you're not attempting to think about how to be here, how to fix the moment, what to do next. You are here. You and I experience that time to time. If you'd like to do that right now, I have a very simple way of doing it. If you're interested, here's how it goes. Breathe in through the nose. Breathe out. Look around. Here we are. In this moment. Beyond thought. Beyond the ideas of what this moment is, what it means to breathe, we're simply living. Now, doing that, being that in every moment, is what a lot of philosophies, spiritual teachers, texts talk about. When we have a habit of being in the mind, it can feel like quite a task to be in the moment. So maybe we can give ourselves glimpses of being in the moment, right? By doing things like that, by breathing in. One of the reasons we might enjoy doing things like looking at YouTube or scrolling around on Instagram is because it simulates the feeling of being in the moment. It can sometimes allow us to be mindless because we're simply flipping through, we are receiving, we are just sort of being with the experience. The challenge about that is it's less about deliberate presence and more about passive presence. It's similar to what we do when we watch TV or movies. We're almost relaxing the mind, but then we're allowing ourselves to receive the messaging that's coming through. Now, if you're not discerning about what you're watching and viewing, you may be directly ingesting messaging that may or may not actually resonate with you, who you are, your thoughts, your beliefs, those structures. This is how people can allow themselves to be programmed by media, by movies, videos. There's no shame or blame in that. Be intentional about what you unwind with. Not because you have to, but because the more intentional you are, instead of ingesting media to escape the moment, you are programming yourself to be more in tune with the moment and who you are. Here's another thing about reality creation, being in the flow. I find that it involves being willing to be completely honest with yourself, but without the shame or blame. It involves a certain level of detachment from outcome. Because the moment you get attached to outcome is the moment that you imagine your happiness exists outside of you. This is a really interesting place to navigate because it might involve you expanding your idea of what it is to enjoy life. Sometimes we imagine we enjoy life by reaching those goals, by having certain experiences, by living certain ways. I'm offering the perspective that you can enjoy all those things without mistaking that for your joy. There's a nuance there. I've talked to some people who share with me, Danielle, I'd enjoy more money, I'd enjoy more resource, but money's not the most important thing to me. And I say, cool. It doesn't have to be the most important thing for you to allow yourself to resonantly receive all the money that you would enjoy. Now, when you're hungry for food, you imagine, I'm going to eat everything. I'm going to eat 50 sandwiches. I'm going to have all this food. I'm going to do this, right? Then you actually eat, and you realize maybe you eat like a third of the food that you thought you were going to eat. Anytime we imagine that we're starved for something, we sometimes over-imagine how much it would take to actually satiate ourselves. The same thing happens with money. We sometimes imagine how much we would need to actually connect with what we would resonantly want. We sometimes tell ourselves then stories. If we don't imagine that we can connect with the amount we want, we might create stories about why we don't need the amount we actually desire. So I'll share a few very practical things with you, and I'm going to merge them with the expansive. One is that I don't find there's anything spiritual, so to speak, about denying yourself what you would perceive as your basic needs, what you perceive as what you require to feel thriving. When I acknowledged where I did feel lack, it allowed me to be present with it. And rather than being angry at the world for my situation or even angry at myself, it allowed me to simply be present with what I genuinely felt. And then I wasn't creating stories about what was right or not right, what I was capable of or not capable of. I was simply giving enough space to be in my own authenticity in the moment for how I was experiencing my life. Where did I feel powerful? Where did I feel powerless? What did I imagine I wanted and needed? From one perspective, you could say we are cosmic eternal beings capable of anything. And I would agree with you. From the other perspective, I would say right now you're human being. So while you are experiencing this body, there are likely basic needs that you would like to get met. I once had a mentor talk with me, and I talked to them about levitation. And they said, sure, you could levitate. You could also just get up and walk over 10 paces and be there. So I'm going to share with you some very grounded thoughts about money and resource that I imagine will be helpful right now. Because all of our explorations about reality creation are really coming back to a middle point. It is a place where you embrace both, let's say, the expansiveness and the unlimited power that you're connected to, and also the experience of being a temporary, limited in perception, human being. See the paradox there? Neither identifying with either one, you find yourself in the middle path. When you are going through perceived struggle or challenge, it can be very easy to attempt to find your answers outside of you. I understand. I did that at certain junctures in my life. I have lived in a place where I was on food stamps. I have lived in a place where I was receiving more than 6 figures a month in revenue. I have experienced the polarities of the spectrum, times when I was in anxiety about how I would pay for things, and times where I was starting to perceive I may never need to think about money again. I understand that when you are in stress and strain about money and resources, talking about perceived lofty ideals can seem to fall flat. Here is what I have said to myself or anyone else, even being in the position I am as a reality creator. When you are in tension and strain, that is the time to connect with the most simple, clear, grounded path. Being a resonant flow-based reality creator is not about finding the most complicated paths or trying to prove you can do something in reality. I find it is about being so in tune with what is the most effective path from where you are at, that your intuition and your actions are aligned, and then you find yourself naturally taking the steps to connect with it. Where we often get really wrapped up is when we think we have to think and solve our way out of every situation, rather than allowing ourselves to be clear-minded and curious and saying, what is the now step? Now, utilizing things like mindset, like mantras, like all these tools that I share with you is part of cultivating yourself so you build the momentum to be more and more in a sense of trust with yourself and less attempting to struggle with reality. Be very kind to yourself, okay? You're at where you're at. No shame, blame, or judgment. All right, we're all in the human experience. Next, you can get very curious about what your now step is. When you are in your head a lot, the antidote is action. Sometimes people say to me, what if I'm taking the wrong steps? From my perspective, there's no right or wrong step. You start stepping in action. If you find you're going, let's just say if you were going the wrong direction, very quickly you will reorient yourself. It's kind of like a car GPS. You know when you are sitting in a parking lot and you're wondering, well, I can't see which way I'm actually supposed to turn? You simply start driving. And very quickly, the GPS orients you. It starts going, oh no, I make a U-turn, I go this way. In the same way with life, if you find yourself stuck, oh, I don't know how to make money, I don't know how to do this, I don't know. Ask yourself, what is the step I could take right now? And then do it. Maybe even beyond that, just take a step right now. If resource is what you need, maybe post on your next door neighbor app that you do landscaping, that you do pet sitting, that you do pet walking, that you do DoorDash, whatever it is you do, take a step. And as you're taking that step in momentum, then you can bring back and apply the resonant perspective focuses that allow your inner GPS to reorient you as you are moving, because it brings you out of theory and it brings you into the living and embodiment of day-to-day life. And then as you work in concert with the action and the embodiment, you start finding that your action can become in concert with your heart. And as that is happening, you actually take less energy to do more action to connect with what it is you want. This is how flow-based living can be. How's that? Let's keep walking. A few final thoughts for us today, my friend. Please be discerning about why anyone's telling you anything they're telling you. Please be curious when people are selling you things, ideas, services, whatever. Be curious as to why they are interested in doing so. I am not saying people are or are not resonant. I am simply saying be curious, be discerning. Be discerning with me, be discerning with everyone. This is your path to live. You are the one that knows your navigation better than anyone else. And you know it with more and more clarity as you lay down the foundations to feel that space within. When you are in a state of stress and shock, I imagine it will be more challenging to feel the subtle quietness. What I did for myself was a lot of movement, somatic therapy. Literally, I danced, I yogaed, I jogged, I ran, I sang. I moved my body, I moved my emotions, my energy in motion. I allowed myself a lot of forgiveness work. I allowed myself to feel rage. I allowed myself to feel angry and happy and sad and pain. But I didn't define myself by those emotions. I allowed myself to feel curious again. I allowed myself to feel love again. I think that's one of the things I'd like to imagine for anyone who's been through a challenging time. Give yourself the permission to feel again. Because we sometimes, when we're going through a challenging time or place, we sometimes block off those feelings because we imagine we don't know what to do with it. If you don't know what to do with it, once again, I found literal movement is helpful. Move your body, breathe. Find a place where you can scream, where you can flail, where you can kick, where you can shake your body, where you can laugh. Allow yourself to feel alive again. See where the constrictions are. Start physically. And then they might find their ways into the neurons. Where am I constricted? In my thought processes. The more you expand your perception, physically, mentally, emotionally, the more range you have to see what's actually possible. I perceive you got this. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful moment. In all its majesty and all its pain. My friend, life isn't about, from my perspective, avoiding pain or trying to run away from it. It's about facing it and realizing that closing your heart to life doesn't actually protect you from pain. It insulates you from joy. Thank you for being here with me in these few moments. It's always cool to see what we end up talking about together. If this has resonated with you, I have some links in the description. You can check out the Self-Alchemy Lab, get the Flow book if you like. Powerful tool. I'm opening up some portals to work with me, walk with me in practical ways this year. So if you want announcements for that, you might subscribe to the channel or get in the Flow book or just tell your inner self to alert you when it's time. We can do all kinds of fun things. I appreciate you, my friend. And I look forward to our next conversation.